Welcome to Skywatch TV. I'm Derek Gilbert. This is our special investigative report, a series called Genetic Armageddon, how modern science is transforming the world around us. And the topic of our discussion today, we continue to talk about Dead Pets Don't Lie, new book from Joe Artis and Donna Howell. Joining us on the panel today, a graduate from Indiana University with a degree with honors in molecular biology, author of Ebola and the Fourth Horseman of the Apocalypse, Sharon K. Gilbert, the co-author of Dead Pets Don't Lie, Joe Artis, and our special guest, an expert in holistic veterinary medicine, her website, littlebigcat.com, Dr. Jean Hovey.
Hi.
Jean, welcome.
Thanks.
The last program really started to make me angry as I began to learn some of the things that you have discovered through your practice and that Joe and Donna have incorporated into Dead Pets Don't Lie, that we are not feeding our animals as well as we think we are because we trust the commercials we see on television, and that our government here in the United States, the Food and Drug Administration, is running interference for us to protect them, to make sure that our pets are being properly fed. We covered a lot of that in the previous program, but I want to build on some things that we discussed toward the end of the program there. For dog owners in particular, but for cat owners as well. Cats are strictly carnivorous. Dogs are more omnivorous. But we're finding products other than animal protein in their foods, and specifically corn products, say for dogs. We know that most of the corn crop grown in the United States is been modified genetically.
Correct.
How is that affecting our animals?
Well, I worry because, you know, the science on genetically modified organisms themselves, their safety, you know, there's some debatable science going on. And, you know, most of the science that says it's fine is funded by the industry
companies
that's
that are
making them. But even if we say, okay, we're not worried about the GMOs, let's say that those are fine. The pesticides, these products were supposed to reduce the need for herbicides.
Right, herbicides,
Right.
Glyphosate in particular.
Glyphosate is in particular a pesticide, but it also, or an herbicide, but it also goes for pesticides. The use of these products has actually increased the need because resistant weeds, resistant pests have cropped up because nature has a way of dealing with these things. So it's actually caused more toxic chemicals to be dumped on our crops. So now we have the issue, if those crops come in and, you know, it's corn for human consumption, or it's soybeans that are going to go into certain granola bars, say, but if the herbicide residue or the pesticide residue is too high for humans, rejected for human consumption, I was told in person, face-to-face by a USDA representative that those products can be used without limit in animal feed and pet food.
Oh, you are kidding.
So if they're too poisonous for people, we'll feed them to your dog.
You also mentioned a process that we didn't really cover much in the previous program, and the way some of these ingredients are processed, especially at rendering plants where they are denatured, and that the protein is denatured. How does that affect the protein, and then how does that in turn affect our animals when they consume the feed?
Good question. Proteins are complicated molecules, and they have a particular shape based on what they're supposed to be doing in the body. They all have a job. You know, some of them are structural. Enzymes are all proteins. Enzymes are what makes every chemical reaction in the body run. So if you don't have the correct proteins, you're going to be losing some function in the body. Now, whether that actually shows up as illness or not depends on dose and time and everything, and genetic susceptibility. But heat denatures proteins, and denature just means distort. So it causes the protein to unfold in its characteristic way and turn into something else, kind of a kind of a thing. And those proteins are unnatural. They're processed into pet food. Our pets' bodies take them in, and the cells in the guts and the cells that deal with the transport of nutrients and stuff, they see that and they say, whoa, what is that? And
It's
when
an invader. It's a
invader.
foreign body that needs to
Yes.
be
Now,
neutralized.
even normal proteins can cause this reaction. For example, the number one allergen in dogs and cats is chicken, mostly because chicken's in pretty much everything, and allergies are formed to proteins that we've been chronically exposed to. So your dog could have been eating a chicken-based food for its whole life, and at 3 or 4 years old suddenly develops an allergy to it. Well, that is how allergies work. It's rare to have an allergic reaction the very first time you're exposed to something. Now, there are exceptions to that, of course, and bee stings and things like that. But these abnormal proteins coming through, I believe, are more likely to trigger an immune reaction. We call that a food allergy. Now, it used to be thought that there are two things that happen when an animal the animal's body rejects a food intolerance, which is usually to a non-protein like a dye or some other chemical or texturizing agent or preservative, and usually just switching brands will take care of that. But if it's a true food allergy, the body's going to react every single time it sees that. And it's food allergies you wouldn't expect. Sometimes they cause digestive symptoms, vomiting or diarrhea or constipation, especially in cats. But the most common reaction is a skin rash. So itchy dogs often have an underlying food allergy, and food allergies are more common than previously thought in veterinary medicine. There's some recent science showing that what we thought was mostly food intolerances could be 30 or 40% of dogs are actually food allergic.
Wow.
And I blame a lot of this on the processing.
Well, before we started actually recording, you and I were talking about food allergies, and I was telling you the story about our Labrador who was allergic to chicken. So we switched her to lamb and rice.
Yeah,
and you
thought
said, well,
you
she's
did.
still getting
You
the
thought you
chicken.
did, yes.
Yeah.
There have been 5 studies in the last few years that have examined what is actually in the food, and they've done DNA testing looking for various species of animals that are commonly in the food. Beef, pigs, lamb, chicken, fish, that kind of thing. 5 studies have shown that what's on the label only has about a 60% chance of reflecting what's actually in the food. This is appalling. And when I brought it up to the veterinary nutritionist group I'm a member of, and to AFCO, that sets the standards for pet food, and the FDA, their response was, "Oh, yeah, it happens. Oh, well." Well, if you have a chicken allergic dog and you're feeding him a food that's venison and quinoa, and you think you're feeding a hypoallergenic food, the chances of chicken being in that are very high.
A lot of us, when we take our pets to the veterinarian, we'll ask the vet for recommendations. You know, what can we do? Our dog isn't doing well. What can you recommend for? You mentioned something else in the last program that I think we need to expand on. You said during your training in school, you received all of 2 hours coursework on
pet nutrition.
Pet nutrition.
Out of 4 years.
Out of 4 years. Is this common?
Yes, and it was taught by a guy from Hill's Science Diet.
Oh,
At that point, we didn't even have a nutritionist on board. I went to Colorado State University, one of the top 3 vet schools in the country. They've gotten better since then because I have ragged on them. And, you know, it's become embarrassing for veterinary schools not to have a nutritionist. But, you know, at most of the schools that have a nutritionist, their salary, it's an endowed chair paid for by one of 2 primary companies, Purina and Hills. So the person teaching nutrition gets their paycheck from the pet food industry.
That's like having an environmental sciences professor at the university whose chair is endowed by, say, ExxonMobil.
Right.
yeah, very much so.
Now, theoretically, if you're in academia, you're an upstanding and broad-minded scientist, and, you know, but don't you think subconsciously they have an inkling that if they don't follow the party line that they're going to end up being replaced?
Well, it's not difficult at all to think that some of this could become political inside of the company itself.
Oh, my-
Motives, ultimately basically being refined by the amount of money that can
Right.
be made
or,
producing a
or
cheap
grants
product.
that can be,
Right, right.
in academia, as publish or perish, you'd better have funded research, or you're out on your ear. You don't get tenure. You don't, you get replaced by somebody else. Now, a number of vet schools, like I said, do have nutritionists on board now, but they oftentimes are funded by the pet food companies, and their research is certainly largely funded by pet food companies. And when veterinarians get their 2 hours of food is for anorexia, and seafood is for cystitis, and D food is for dermatological issues, and G food is for geriatric. Any questions, which is what I got. 2 hours of this diet, this diet, this diet. See you later, bye.
Well, I know we have to take a break, but can we come back and talk about what we should feed our dogs?
Absolutely. Our special report
cats.
series called Genetic Armageddon continues right after this on Skywatch TV.
The Natural Dog Training Method, featuring dog behaviorist Joe Ardis, available now on DVD. Walk with Joe as he leads you through a simple-to-understand, step-by-step process of learning to communicate with your dog in the language that he understands. Follow the easy steps to master house training, crate training. Learn to correct undesirable behaviors such as nipping or mouthing. Jumping up. Pulling on the leash. Destroying personal property. Taking over your furniture. Making messes. And so much more. You will be amazed at how using the techniques presented in the Natural Dog Training Method will put you in charge and have your dog respecting you and even the smallest of children.
The techniques on this video really worked for me.
This video has completely changed my relationship with my dog.
Our dogs are more respectful than they've ever been.
Now I know how to train my Christmas puppy.
The Natural Dog Training Method, available now on the 2-hour trainer-recommended DVD, as seen on syndicated television. To learn more, visit www.healthypetguru.com. Essential training techniques for a healthy, balanced, obedient companion.
I'm Derek Gilbert. This is a special series on Skywatch TV called Genetic Armageddon, how cutting-edge science is transforming the world around us. This week focusing on how it is affecting our pets, their livelihood, their health. And you had a question that you wanted to pose,
Well,
Sharon.
when I was growing up in the Stone Age, we actually fed our animals food scraps. Whatever we ate at the table, that's what they got. We've long since moved past that as a civilization. What can we do to make our dogs and cats healthier?
Well, one thing, every veterinarian says don't feed table scraps, which means your dog is not a garbage disposal. You don't feed him what's left over that you won't eat. No one said sharing isn't just fine. Sharing, I mean, isn't that what makes the world go round?
Well, that's what our dachshund tells us.
Right. If you're eating a healthy meal, you can share that with your dog. Now, cats, they're a little different, and they need more protein and certain other nutrients that are primarily meat-based, so you don't want to feed them a lot of vegetables or a lot of grains, not because they're not nutritious or they can't digest them, but really what they need is meat. They need protein and fat. They're really keyed to digest protein and fat. So if you want to get away from commercial pet food, and I certainly am in favor of that, I make my cats raw food at home. Homemade diets are great if you're following a balanced recipe that is legit, not just anything off the internet or out of a book. Anybody can write and publish a book. Anybody. It doesn't take a genius to do that. And all these recipes for these fun doggy Pop-Tarts or whatever it is, that's not going to be a balanced recipe. It's not going to support them in health. They're fun treats, but don't rely on that unless you know you have a balanced recipe, and unless you're willing to do the research to know what you're doing. You don't skip any supplements. It's something that it takes a commitment to do. But there are frozen raw diets or dehydrated raw diets that make it real simple. Add warm water, thaw out the thing, and those are fine. Those are great. Not every pet can handle raw food, so A home cooked diet is fine too. You have to add some extra enzymes and probiotics to make up for what's cooked out of the food.
Now, do you need to sort of switch them over to a different food slowly, or just go right?
Well, it depends on the individual animal. I've had animals that, you put down the new food, they eat it for the rest of their life, they're fine, But my cats never get the same meal twice in a row. They would be appalled if they got sort of the same dinner as they got for breakfast. Seriously? I mean, do I eat the same thing every day? Unless it's popcorn.
Oh, yeah.
But we don't eat the same thing every day. It doesn't make sense. A cat that's out hunting a feral cat doesn't say, today I'm going to eat chickadees, and I'm never going to eat another finch. Robins, forget it. Chickadees.
Well, last night you cracked me up because you used the spaghetti-o analogy, and I thought that was genius, and I think that viewers at home might really identify with that. If you would share the spaghetti-o analogy.
Right. So let's say Chef Boyardee puts a lot of vitamins in SpaghettiOs and says it is complete and balanced for every life stage. So when your baby is born, when he's he gets SpaghettiOs milk formula first, and then he gets SpaghettiOs Junior, which is good through middle school. Then you put him on SpaghettiOs Adolescent. And then when he graduates from college, then he goes on SpaghettiOs Adult for the rest of his life. Now, if you're
SpaghettiOs Senior.
Yes.
Yes, that's right.
Yes, for those of us
Don't forget
who are,
SpaghettiOs Senior.
the gray hair and the whole thing. But if you went to a pediatrician and he said that to you, don't ever give your kid an apple, it'll unbalance the diet. Carrots, oh my gosh, no. You would run screaming for the hills. You would run. Why do we think it's okay to do that to a pet? Why do we think that's okay? Because the pet food companies have brainwashed you to believe that they have done the research, their diet is complete and balanced for life. Now let's talk about some of these other. Now you can buy food for a indoor cat with a sensitive tummy, or a boxer dog, or they have all these niche products. Senior, mature. There's even one called baby cat. Seriously? There's no life stage called baby cat. In fact, there are only 2 life stages for the standards by which all pet food is made. There's only 2, adult and everything else. All the high requirement pregnancy, nursing, growth. Only 2 standards. And all of those, Siamese cat formula and
It's all just
wiener
marketing.
dog formulas, it's all marketing. They're made with the same ingredients, maybe twist a couple of percentages on protein and fat. They're all the same. People don't understand this. So feed your pets a variety of things. Please, people, feed a variety. Different brands, different flavors, different protein sources. It's crucially important to preventing deficiencies and excesses as well.
Joe, we asked you a question, didn't really give you enough time to answer it, and again, we're coming at you with just a few minutes left in the program, but as a pet behavior specialist, how do you see what a pet consumes, a dog consumes especially, affects his or her behavior?
Well, I've seen a lot of situations where clients are looking at me for guidance. They've got a canine situation that they're not sure how to remedy. A lot of this behavior is described as the dog is stupid, or the dog won't listen to me when I'm harping at it, or the dog is oblivious to my instruction and isn't trainable. I'm sure you've heard this too. The dog is not trainable. They want a more attentive dog that's more disciplined and excited about training. And long before oftentimes we can deal with the behavioral side effects, we have to get right down to the problem, which begins with diet. How could you expect a child, for example, to pay attention at school if been giving nothing but ice cream for 30 days before a test?
Right.
The frame of mind is not going to be balanced and calm and ready to receive information. So how can we expect our pets to be attentive and thrive on training when they're irritable and agitated and they feel sick?
Yeah.
So you have to pay attention to the external signs that your animals are communicating with you when they're behaving around you. You have to be really watching, because if you're expecting that ideal, trainable, behavioral situation at home, diet is almost always overlooked. It's broadly overlooked. People want behavior recommendations. They want YouTube videos that are a minute and a half that tell them how to quick fix
Right.
the attention span of a pet. And so it's really important that you take Dr. Hovey's advice and feed a balanced diet. And if you are going to buy commercial food, if that's the only option you have in life and you absolutely work full time and you have to go that route, then change brands so that if one particular brand after 30 days becomes deficient, or they've switched their protein resources, or they're getting food from a different vendor now, you can often kind of offset that by switching brands and keep your dog constantly rotating through a variety of foods that way.
Right.
And you told me that the
may
wet
I
is better. The wet food is better.
Especially for cats, no dry food.
Yeah.
No dry food, there's lots of research on that. But quickly, if your animal is eating commercial food, add some fresh food. Add some broccoli to your dog.
supplement
Add
it.
a little raw meat even for your cat. Just even a little bit, even just on Sundays or Saturday night if that's your inclination, or Friday night for some of my friends. It's gonna, every little bit of fresh, wholesome nutrition, doctors say for us, this goes for our pets.
Oh, this flew by.
Where would you recommend people turn for some good basic guidance, information that we can trust about how to feed our pets better?
Right. Well, my website, littlebigcat.com, has a huge section on nutrition. I've published books about both dog and cat nutrition and kind of lifestyle, because it goes beyond nutrition to be truly healthy, right? There, for dog food, if somebody wants to know what are the better brands of dog food, dogfoodadvisor.com is very good. I'm working on a book for dogs. I have an ebook for cats called What Cats Should Eat. Working on what dogs should eat. Don't give up. I'll get it done soon. But, there are a lot of us out there that have done the research. I'm a little unique because I'm a veterinarian and I've done the research, and there's very few of us.
Yeah.
But what I learned in vet school was zero, basically. I had to learn it all on my own.
In addition to Dr. Hovey's writings and the research that she's done, people can also check out the book Dead Pets Don't Lie. One of the goals that Donna Howell and I created for ourselves early in the book is that it would read very much to the person at home that doesn't have a lot of academia experience, they don't have a lot of veterinarian experience, and they just want the kind of easy-to-read, spoon-fed breakdown of where to start, what to look for, what to avoid on labels, what to look for on labels.
And this is the book forthcoming. We are called by the Lord to be good stewards of His creation, and that includes the animals that we have taken into our care. It is our responsibility to do the research and treat them well. That's what the Lord meant when He told Adam and Eve to go forth and take dominion over the birds of the air, the fish in the sea, and the beasts of the field. As part of our report on the genetic Armageddon, how cutting-edge science is transforming our world, I'm Derek Gilbert. We thank you for watching as we keep watch. This is Skywatch TV.